was fun.
I will call to order the August 2nd, 2022 regular meeting of Transportation Committee, and we have a roll call vote, please.
Chaplain. Desart. Here. Kajewski.
Here.
Ozog. Here. Kachowski.
Here.
And Zay.
All right, we have a quorum. Chairman's right, we got our budget today. And I would say this committee works really well together. I mean, we put the time in, and, you know, a lot of things we do are doing what's best for the county of DuPage. And I think this year's budget is kind of exciting, so I'm looking forward to that. I just want to thank the committee. We work well together as a committee. We've been on committees where it doesn't, but this committee does. And I want to thank everybody for that. So we have no public comment. I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Transportation Committee of June 21st, 2022. A motion, a second. Any changes, alterations, or corrections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Next is item 6. I would move to combine agenda items 6A through F.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Then I motion to approve consent item A, B, C, D, E, and F, which are all decrease and close out of contracts. Any questions on any of these? If none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Number 7, purchase requisition. Move to approve DTP 0218-22. Recommendation for the approval of the contract to MD Solutions to furnish and deliver rolled goods as needed for the Division of Transportation for a contract not to exceed $55,000, which is lowest responsibility. Do you have a second on that?
Yeah.
Second. Okay, second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Next is general resolutions, and I'd like a motion to approve DTR 0306-22. Recommendation for the approval of the resolution to authorize the Division of Transportation process FY 2023 and FY 2024 recommend vehicle replacement purchase order.
Second.
Upon confirmation award of a contract by the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative for a contract not to exceed $1,989,000 in fiscal year 23 and $1,502,500 in fiscal year 2024. Motion a second. This was great job on our head of our department. Thank you, Chris, for doing this. It's been a phenomenal move. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Next is agenda item 9, which is amending resolution. Move to approve the amendment to resolution DTP 0121B-20 issue Knight EA Inc. for professional design engineering services for the bridge carrying Warrenville over the east branch of the DuPage River to increase the funding $70,003, resulting in amended contract of $465,821.10. A motion and a second. Any questions?
Were they acquired and aren't they a different company now?
They're still operating under Knight Engineers. It's my understanding that the WSP purchase, I'm not sure that all the paperwork is caught up. So as far as I know, once they are WSP, I'm sure we'll bring something forward to the board to change their name for payment processing.
I know we talked about bridges in the past in a general question. We are on top of all of our bridges as far as there's no bridge that's really in terrible condition. It's an issue.
Wait till we get to our budget.
Okay.
This is one of those bridges. This
All right.
is one of those bridges that we talked about advancing. Normally, we would do preliminary engineering followed by design engineering. This one we're running concurrently. We have federal funding for the phase 1, but we advanced the design.
And that's
Non-federal.
Bloomingdale Township.
That's Bloomingdale Bridge. That's a separate one. This is Lyle Township. But these retaining walls, normally we would have identified the need for these at the preliminary stage and negotiated design contract to reflect it. Because we're moving concurrently, this was a late determination in the preliminary phase, so we have to incorporate it into the design phase.
And that's great because it's public safety and getting it done.
Avoids right away, minimizes right away.
Transportation, plowing and things like that. So back to the
The only
resolution.
reason I asked was that I think Knight sent stuff out to all their vendors.
Okay.
What they sent. So.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they're still operating under that.
Yes, they are. They said they're keeping the name subsidiary under them
Okay.
until all those contracts are closed out.
All right. Any, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Next is item 10, intergovernmental agreements. Move to approve DTR 0299-22.
Second.
Intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and Downers Grove Township Road District for the Downers Grove Township 2022 road maintenance program. No county cost. We have a motion second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Now we go to the big number 11, our fiscal year 2023 recommended budget, and the lovely and charming Christopher will take over.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chairman Pachalski. So the information we're presenting on was shared with you yesterday. We've also provided a hard copy of the presentation as well as all the Oracle ERP budget information, the details for each of the fund codes we'll be talking about. So, next slide. So real quick on the revenue side, so DOT relies on three primary revenue sources: the local gas tax, which was increased to 8 cents went in effect July of 2021. Effective July 1 of this year, it rose to 8.4% based on the CPI. So we are now effectively collecting 8.4 cents. The motor fuel tax, we know, increased under Rebuild Illinois as well. In addition, under Rebuild Illinois, there was a local bonding component, so 1.5 billion to be distributed to local agencies based on MFT formula. So for DuPage County, that was 36 million over 3 years. That was 2020, 21, and 22. Impact fees were one of two counties in the state that collected impact fee for new or redevelopments. Other sources of funding includes reimbursements, federal, state grants, local partnerships, local government grants. Those tend to be less predictable. They're obviously dependent on awards. So while we look forward to them, we can't always rely on the availability of those in the out years of our program because they are dependent on applications and awards. The infrastructure fund, also known as the RTA tax. So that tax does have a transportation component to it. Those dollars are distributed by the county board with each budget cycle. The DOT has not received those funds since 2014. And then the last item is the revenue trend. Just to give you an update of where we're at. It's hard to compare apples to apples because right now with Rebuild Illinois and the motor fuel tax increase and local gas tax increase, we try to disaggregate them to compare our current revenues to what they were in 2019. We are tracking about 5 to 10% under where we were in 2019. That's far better than we were at the peak of COVID when we were 45% under. We don't know if that's the new norm in terms of COVID or is it the price of fuel, but I will tell you we are receiving much more money now because of Rebuild Illinois and our local gas tax. So it's hard to trend backwards now that those increases have occurred. So,
Yes, Don?
Can I ask a quick question before we move on? The RTA tax, what is the law on that? Aren't we supposed to use the RTA tax for transportation?
Transportation or public safety, when we passed it, we were going to, I was on board, we were going to lose 232 head count, and we added public safety, and then we're the only county that gets shortchanged on this because everybody else puts a lot more in for transportation. We had to save those 232 jobs when we got it. And that amendment for public safety was done by DuPage so they could cover those people. Jim, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, we just chose to use it for public safety.
Yeah, 'cause
Instead of roads? And what loss was
I've
that
been
to
arguing since
transportation?
2010 to get money into transportation, hence we got a little
Well, Chris
bit.
said it's been since 2014.
Well, that's when we got like $1 million or something. I mean, they were getting 40, I mean, we're getting 50 million now.
Complained that's why this gas tax increase. And we were all project based. We could show it's bricks and mortars and pavement and roads. So we have done a great job, and I think Chris and Nick take credit for all the improvements we have.
I don't know if you got this we looked at it 4 or 5 years ago, but Lake and Kane, Bill were putting 100%.
It was, I think every
And
county
McHenry was
except
like
one,
80.
they were 80%, yes. I see those every year. I get.
And we were putting 0.
So if the RTA money was being transferred over to JPS, what is this department losing? How much would that be?
Yeah, I think that's
Well
a
over 50
question.
million.
Yeah, I think it's a
50
Jeff,
million.
the question for Jeff,
Yeah.
in terms of what the RTA tax is. Now, so this tax is allowed for transportation, transit, and public safety, as Chairman Pachalski mentioned. We did get some allotments early on. Obviously, we ran into a personnel situation. So since that time, we haven't got any. What we did get, I think I remember telling, talking about the 4 million we got, or the hundreds of thousands we got in RTA, we parlayed that into 10 million because we're able to leverage federal funds. That being said, obviously, I think that was some of the consideration when we almost unanimously passed the local gas tax, to increase that. So obviously, the RTA provides a lot more flexibility on how we can use it for transportation. But again, I defer to the county board.
Well, long-term, Chris,
And Governor Quinn was very good to us. specifically in DuPage.
I've said for years that I think the transportation is public safety. Truly it is. Anyway, I'm sorry. Thank you
Long term,
for.
we've been asking about putting some dollar amount in, a few million, and then every year increase it. But I mean,
Yeah,
this
so
would
Ryan
be
and
the,
I would complain every year.
but I don't know if we need it now. I mean, we're running at a huge surplus on the general fund.
That's
So
part of his.
let's say, let's put some RTA tax in now.
I think you're right.
Should be.
Because of
I
all the
agree
other
with
factors.
percentage or something.
I
along
agree.
those lines.
But I don't know if you can handle all the, because you already got this MFT for tax.
Right.
Can we handle the road work?
Correct. So I think when we get to the budget, later stage of the budget presentation, you'll see a huge uptick in spend. And then you'll see in the out years, we go to very low. And the reason is because we've lost all fund balance. We've expended all our dollars. So we're at a barely a maintenance budget until we catch up with some money in the bank, so to speak. So we'll get to that.
Another question, when was the last time the motor fuel or the local gas tax was changed? I forgot.
So we increased it to county under
Last year.
Rebuild Illinois.
Yeah.
We were able to increase it up to 8 cents. So we did that in December or November of 2020. It went to effect July of 21. Prior to that, it had been 30 years.
28 years or something.
Okay,
30
so-
years.
so
It was
early
long
90s.
overdue.
Okay.
And that was one of the things we talked about when we did our lobbying in Springfield.
Yeah.
And also, my issue was, when I was talking to the Senate President Cullerton, I'm talking about, it was down, I'm better than that, I drive a Tesla, it should be nothing. And that's, we want to do that Oregon plan, where you could either pay by
Yeah,
a
but
mile, or
DOT.
you could pay a max, and it was Big Brothers watching us. Well, yes, the people with electric cars get a huge benefit, but those people who have fuel cars don't. So.
The thought is over time, as the fleet changes over, that there would be a equal replenishment to the motor fuel tax. The issue with, people like the Teslas and when you pay your license plate fees and those taxes, none of it goes to local
I thought they
agencies.
did a cap of $50 or something.
It's 250 a year.
Amount
I
that
think
was.
it's 250 a year, but we get none of it. We only collect in motor fuel tax. We don't collect in license plate fees, registration and stuff. All that's 100% goes to IDA.
That would be an issue to discuss, is
That'll
that
have to be.
electric vehicles should pay their fair share. And I don't know how that formula is, but something to get. But go ahead, Chris.
Okay. All right, page 3. So summary of revenue real quick. I will, basically what we have is our approved FY22 budget. The middle column is the estimated. This is what we think, given where we're sitting today, what we're going to get for the balance of for the whole year. And then our projected 2023.
So Rich, does any other county have a tax rate?
Okay.
Just us and Maine.
So we can, look through each line item if you want, but if we just go down to the bottom, you can see in FY22, both the approved and estimated, right around 79 million. The projected for 23 is 67, and that is primarily and almost exclusively because of the 36 million we were getting from the state under the Rebuild Illinois, 12 million a year. Last year, this year is the last payout, so we won't be getting 12 million going forward. So that's why the decrease. Okay. So 67 we project to take in. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So this is our operating expenses, our day-to-day. This is personnel, fuel, salt, capital non-highways. This is vehicles and equipment. And so these are actual expenditures. Generally, we're between 16 and 17 actual expenditures on a given year. A lot of the variability stems from the commodity side oftentimes, and that is Mother Nature. Depending on what she throws at us in terms of winter snow and ice. So in 2021, the salt was a little more expensive than it was in 2020 COVID, but also we used a lot more. I think the winter was a lot more aggressive. We used a lot more fuel. So otherwise, basically our expenses in actuality is about 16 to 17 million a year. Next page, summary of operating expenses. So this is a comparison of our 2022 approved budget and our 2023 the recommended budget. So on the personnel benefits, we're actually about just under 2% lower. So even though the personnel lineup does reflect salary adjustments, we did the big market adjustments, we brought forward a new contract. The one item that is variable every year is we make an assessment of the potential retirements and benefit payouts for our employees. In the past, we've used 30 years as the criteria. This year we went to 35. We just weren't seeing people leaving at 30. So people do go longer. So the biggest drop is really in those benefit payouts on the personnel line. That's why we're seeing a negative on the personnel side.
Are we having a hard time finding people? I know a while we were losing a lot of people. They could go to Naperville or Glen Ellen, get $40,000 raise. And that was an issue. People wanted to stay with the county, but we weren't being competitive.
Right.
Is that still an issue?
The biggest issue we have is actually with our fleet mechanics. We're struggling to find mechanics that want to come and stay with the county. We brought some on, done some training. The next opportunity was they paid more. So that's where we're finding it really difficult. So you'll see in the contractual item when we get there, one of the items we've done is we've increased or we've allotted for contracted mechanics. We'll send things out to get us over this spell of not being able to find positions in terms of employees.
Well, I'd rather have a person have a good paying
Yep.
job and that pays benefits than contracted. So that's my
Does
personal.
this personnel number have the benefits in there, the health insurance? And
Yes, yes.
The ones we've been seeing have not had that in there.
So if you looked at the detailed budget and you went through it, it does have the IMRF, the Social Security and the medical. Yep, in those details, yeah, they are in there.
I have more questions. I mean, the last ones we've been looking at don't have it in there. These guys do have it in there.
There's a reason for that.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so DOT once again far exceeds.
CPA to CPA, you guys can talk that afterwards, you know.
So real quick, not surprising on commodities. We do have an increase that's reflective of what we expect to be a continuation of higher fuel prices, as well as an escalation in parts, supply chain, and just a natural uptick in
I'm
these
surprised it's only
availability.
3.6%.
Yeah, that's just well, again, every year we try to look at all of our commodities and do a 3-year rolling average. So while some things went down, fuel is quite a bit higher, and we did increase the parts contract. Contractual, I mentioned, we've got some outsourcing of potential for mechanic support. The other thing is we did put in an additional 500,000 in contingency just for some of these supply chain issues that may come through. We want to have the budget. The capital non-roadway, this is a big percent. You'll remember we are purchasing 4 snowplows and 2 crew cabs. 2024, we are advancing those to 2023, so that's why the big difference in that line item.
And you won't get it for 18 months anyway, so.
We're hopeful sooner, but we budgeted in 23, but it may not be till
That was
24.
good, well, thank you.
So here's our core operating budget. So our fund balance is quite high. Again, 36 million from the state of Illinois to rebuild Illinois, increase MFT, increase local gas tax. So we have $75 million fund balance, bringing 67-ish this year. Our core operating expenses, we got our operations. That was a slide prior. Maintenance contracts, I'll talk in the next slide. Debt service. There is a nominal debt service. We are paying back the RZ bonds from 2008 for about $15 or so million of transportation improvements that we do reimburse finance on an annual basis. We have a carryover of just under 11.5 million. These are projects, engineering, construction, vehicle purchases that we've already obligated. Now we have to carry over because they haven't been, contracts haven't closed. So on the capital side, it says 90 million, but we won't have that much capital. And I'll talk about that. As
Do
we
we
go.
look into just paying that bond off?
Well, this is something that would be a discussion for finance to look at the timing for paying that off. So I'll defer to.
I could.
We got 90 million sitting in there, but then we owe.
This is a bond that's got a principal of about 60 million.
60 million?
60. That's the 2010 A and B bonds. So I think this is DOT's portion of that.
Yeah.
Well, if we paid it down since 2008, if we got this in 2008, it's gotta be.
Was
What
it
was it
30?
originally?
20 or 30
It was a 30-year.
Some of these bonds are
it was-
20 or 30 years.
It's a strange, very strange bond. It's part of, I forgot the name of it, but
Recovery zone,
recovery zone.
Right.
zero interest.
Zero interest, and we didn't pay anything, I think, for the first 10 years.
Right.
Oh.
You can't pay it off because this is just a portion of the large one.
Right.
Okay, so real quick, so our budget, this recommended budget in 2023 is about 92 million, about 11 million more than last year. That reflects obviously a bigger increase in commitment to capital improvements. So our O&M is about 30% of our budget. Most departments, 75 to 80% of their budget is personnel. We're more capital intensive, as you can see in the capital line item. Next slide. I talked about our annual resurfacing program. So we have our day-to-day operations. That's personnel, combines, contractual, snow and ice. We pay for that first. We then take care of state of good repair. This is a listing of those contracts that we bring forward or award every year. Maintain our pavements, our signals, pavement marking, landscape. Next slide. Now we talk about capital. So after we've done everything else, what's available for capital, this is what we'll spend our money on. So it's engineering, land acquisition, construction, or participation agreements with our partner agencies. Next slide. I'm not going to go through all these. These are the list of new starts. So these are new engineering contracts. The road is on the left, the limits are on the middle, the scope is in the middle, and then the far right is the phase, either planning, design, or construction. So again, I won't go into too much detail, but these are new starts. Things already under engineering and continuing are not listed here. So you please feel free to look at these at your leisure. And if you have any questions, let me know.
The building replacement, why don't you give us a little bit more?
Yeah,
on that?
so the 140 building across the street, that's proposed to be removed and replaced. That'll be 24, 25. We do expect to bring on a construction engineer this year to assist us with plan reviews and be available as we go into the next phase. Our expertise is horizontal, it's not vertical. And obviously on the vertical side, a lot going here on campus and with Tim's group. So we'll bring on a firm in 2023 to begin that process to support our review of the plans by the architect. Next slide. Again, these are all engineering new starts, the next phases. These phases have not started, but many of these projects are ongoing. It's just the next phase. I do want to mention the last one, York Road. That's a unique one. That's a partnership with the tollway. So they're doing the engineering. You'll see agreement coming through in maybe even as soon as prior to 23, but 23, that they're going to be the lead for engineering because everything they got going on at 390, 490 Western Access, it made sense that they would lead the design effort for the roadway that's impacted by all that activity. And so there will be an agreement that they'll be doing the engineering and we'll be reimbursing it. Next slide. These are the 2023 construction contracts. I guess if I had to summarize next year, it's going to be the year of the bridge. We have 4 bridges, 3 that we're targeting for complete replacement. Bloomingdale Road over the CN, that's a new one that IDOT just posted. All these 3 bridges I'm talking about, we've talked about, have an impact on our snow and ice. We have the Geneva Road over West Branch, and then the last one, Warrenville over the East Branch, are all complete replacements. Another new one is the Illinois Prairie Path here in downtown Wheaton over the UP. UP advised us that they're coming through and raising their tracks. One of their tracks, the clearance right today is about 2 inches underneath our bridge. So obviously they have to go slow through Wheaton under our bridge. They are looking to raise their tracks several inches, so we have to raise our bridge or replace it. So they've given us a year reprieve, and so we're actively pursuing engineering to see if we can raise that bridge instead of replacing it. It is historic, it's over 100 years old, steel structure.
And what do you think it's going to be able to be that, or are we going to have to replace it?
We believe, based on preliminary engineering analysis, we had someone look at it, they believe the members are structurally sound. It was built for a railroad, and right now it's a bike path, so they believe it's structurally sound, that it can be lifted. We just have to figure out when you lift it, what does it do to the approaches? Because we have bridge on
So we're
one
going to have
side.
shims to it, something like that?
Shims, yeah, it's like leveling a cabinet in your kitchen.
Gotcha.
So we're hopeful that's as simple as we can do.
All right.
So that's the 2023 construction projects. Next slide. These are all our vehicle or equipment purchases. Again, you'll see the top 2 under auto, the 8 plows, normally we do 4. Crew cabs, normally we do 2, but these reflect 22, 23, and 24 needs ish. We're off, one of them is being replaced with an Explorer. But other than that, these are typical purchases we acquire every year to take care of our day-to-day operations. But again, we are advancing 2024 purchases as part of the 23 budget. Next slide. Here's our 5-year budget outlook. So we're looking at, next slide. We're looking at almost, you can see at the upper top, of 372 million for DOT. This is just county money. This is our budget. So we got the orange is our day-to-day O&M, the gray is our capital projects, and the 1% is our debt service for the RZ bond. Next slide. This is just capital. So this gets at the question we had earlier. We have a huge fund balance. We have 3 major projects coming up the next 3 years: Fabian Parkway reconstruction, York Road reconstruction, and our 140 building. Those 3 projects alone are estimated to be 65 to 70 million. So we have a huge ramping up. We'll spend our fund balance. We'll get caught up with our be aligned with our revenue stream. So you see in the out years, We always budget a 6th year in our 5-year, you just don't see it here. And that is we can bring things forward into 26, 27, but if you look at our 5-year, we want to avoid going negative in terms of fund balance. So that's why you see a drop in the program in 26, 27. We still are building things. And each year we adjust those out years. And so you'll see that populate next year. If you remember this presentation, 26 will be more robust than it is now. So next slide. The last thing we fund is the Century Hill Light Service Area. So in 2016, under the ACT initiative, there was the Century Hill Lighting District that we, under the ACT initiative, we absorbed into DOT. We have a signal maintenance contractor that takes care of all of our 340 traffic signals and 1,000 streetlights. It made sense to absorb this lighting district into our operations. It is fully funded by their levy. So essentially what we do is we take care of day-to-day electricity, obviously, and then routine maintenance. Every one of those poles probably is in line to be replaced at some point, but we have to build up a cash reserve. So right now we're building up that reserve and just keeping things working in the interim. And so in the future, we'll have a capital program associated with that.
Is that gonna be a tremendous cost of the capital? Probably
It's-
something
Yeah,
billions
it's
of-
70 poles and probably 10,000, 5 to 10,000 a pole. We're talking about $500,000 eventually to replace them all. We're thinking we'll do it incrementally, street by street by street, and maybe reduce the number. You don't need to have one every front of every house.
Can be a special assessment or whatever.
Well, we'll have to see how we kind of do that. Our hope is that the current levy will cover those costs, and we'll work with the association to determine what the ultimate needs are in terms of how many and where. So with that, I'll turn it over to any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Very
Of course.
thorough, next job. And as I said, this committee does a phenomenal job. We work well together. Does anybody have any questions on the proposed budget? Jim?
No, just Chris, thanks that we were able to shift here on a lot of these bridges that we weren't expecting to, have to do right away. So your guys' flexibility and being able to get those things going, shows a lot. So, thank you.
All right. Anybody? All right. If that's the case, we have then any report from our state's attorney? All right, say no. Okay, any old business from anybody?
Yeah, I do. Just real quick, I just want to mention, at one of our prior meetings, we talked about the strike and how that was affecting our construction program. How it's affecting our construction program. Well, the strike is over. Contractors were out working the very next day. You see things being milled, and we were able to keep a lot of concrete going incrementally. So where we sit today with our program is we believe all of our projects we're confident will be substantially completed this year. Our resurfacing program, which is different roadways, we have the flexibility to, if it gets too late in the season, we can defer a roadway till next year and take care of it then. The only project of concern is going to be 87th to Woodward. Utilities,
That seemed like it has moved over there.
the utilities were affected by obviously the strike a little bit and also the supply chain and ability to do stuff. So while they have been making meaningful progress, there's still, it's for that project at best, we'll get half done this year, do a winter shutdown and then come back next year. But everything else, I think we're in good shape, but we'll bring something forward to this committee in September as we kind of look down the pipe and see if there's anything we're going to defer until next year. But at this point, things are looking good.
All right.
The issue is going to be what we can put on the street next year and what the bidding environment will be, because everybody's going to be handing things, going until next year. So that will be interesting to kind of see.
All right, anything else under old? And if not, new business, anything? All right,
I think I've said enough.
All right, it was a good presentation. So without objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.